I'm Charting Man Dan with the chart, guys. We're going to check in on the market as we've been tightening up in response to the big drop last Friday. We're going to get a break this coming week that dictates some short-term direction. Good volatility in quantum stocks. Is the metal top in? I have some good trades I made, some bad trades I made. We'll do a little review. Learn how to trade stocks, crypto, and hype sectors with a global chat room led by professional traders, as well as daily live streams at chartguys.com. All right, so we have some headlines back and forth. Again, price action is always more important for me, but it's important to be aware of the narrative that's going on. So if Trump posts something about a China trade war, we're going to go down. And if he posts that, oh, we'll come to a deal and the tariffs probably won't go into effect, then we go up. And so we're within a tightening range, and we know to scout equilibriums after significant volatility in both directions. And so we have a version of that. But in terms of knowing the narrative, for example, we're going to look at some rare earth stocks, which have had great volatility in both directions, but any escalation with China, and those can potentially go up while the rest of the market is going down. So in that instance, I want to be aware of any headlines or things like that. But S&P 500, as we know, sucker punch low is what we care most about. It is still holding, so the bears have not proven follow through, and we pretty much have the all-time high, the low of the sucker punch. We bounced and formed a lower high. And then, of course, some headlines came out again to help the weakness. We then dumped down Friday morning pre-market. Some positive headlines come out right near support. And that's our higher low. That's how I'm viewing it. It's not a picture perfect equilibrium in the sense that, you got some of these wicks here. But again, I'm just viewing it as high, low, lower high, higher low. And how does this tightening range break? Probably next week, and that's what we're going to be looking for. And we've got, in terms of our major sectors, the captain of Team Bull is semiconductors, and the captain of Team Bear is the financial sector. And just quickly glancing, you can see semiconductors, clear wall of resistance on SMH, but we're right there, still holding on fine. We're far away from that sucker punch low. The financial sector dropped to a lower low already. It is the only major sector that I watch that has broken that sucker punch low. And one of the things that has been happening with this volatility is we're seeing correlations sync up in the sense that many times, in our chat room, we've got an alert when all of the major sectors are near their lows at the same time or the highs at the same time. And we've been getting a lot of those firing off during the trading day in both directions. And if you go before the sucker punch day, we would go weeks without them either firing, because it was just your standard rotation. And so after the fear flush, the rotation has been disrupted to a certain degree. And so again, whenever there's fear or volatility, correlations sync up a lot. And so that's what we're seeing. NASDAQ is very similar. Same thing. Again, the high, the low, the lower high. You can see right down this base of support is now a bit of a double bottom. And in the end, the close on Friday for the NASDAQ futures chart, just looking really roughly here, we've probably only ever closed above that level, maybe 6 days in the history of the universe. The NASDAQ's been higher. So have to keep that in mind as well, which is why I keep saying the burden is on bears, because one day is not enough. You've got to follow through and break that sucker punch low. But for now, just tightening up within that range. And we could definitely keep tightening up another day or two into next week, but we will be looking for a break next week. So again, semiconductors, lead bull there. NVDA is not the lead bull at the moment. We'll look for a bounce. We'll look for a daily lower high to be the result of that bounce, but MU has been holding really strong, riding daily EMA 12. But I am keeping an eye on SMH because my mindset is if the broader market is going to break the sucker punch low, I just view it as, the lead general bull, the dude on the horse leading the army is SMH right now, and he's got to fall off his horse if we're going to drop down and break that low. The strongest name has to weaken if things are going to shift meaningfully. And likewise, if the financial sector can recover meaningfully, it'll be the opposite impact. But keeping a close eye on SMH, not trading it, but as far as my analysis of the broader market, it's important. So financial sector weakness is a bit of a revival of the regional bank fears from 2.5 years ago. And if you look at KRE, Remember 2.5 years ago, we collapsed and then we had a significant bounce off those lows. I'm viewing this as a forever equilibrium. This has been tightening up, and BA is in one of these as well from 2020. Not related, Boeing, but I'm just viewing it. Again, it's not picture perfect. I'm just smoothing it out visually. It's looking like the lower high is forming, and we're going to look for a break in 2026 of this tightening range. And this has been 5 years in the making. And so that will be impactful, not only, of course, on regional banks, but also the implications on the financial sector as a whole. So keeping an eye on this tightening range. Anything above 47.06 will be a higher low. We could drop 20% and still be holding that level. But it is looking like our longer term lower high is being set with the weakness that these banks saw this past week. So keeping an eye on that. Bigger picture and XLF daily downtrend. We are zooming out and looking for a monthly high or low because there's a lot of space for it. I'm viewing anything over 42.21 as a monthly high or low. But daily downtrend is our guide. And next bounce, anything under that level will be just another lower high. So again, captain of team bear, financial sector. And that is weighing on IWM a bit. IWM did get an all-time high on Wednesday. But again, just keeping in mind that the financial sector is the largest sector holdings in IWM, and so that does have an impact. I'm watching for the possibility, again, if we're going to break the sucker punch low, that's how I view things. When I'm analyzing all these individual sectors, if the broader market breaks the sucker punch low, this is what it would look like. If we break the high and keep seeing all-time highs, this is what this sector would look like. So it would be SMH breaking that wall of resistance to new all-time highs. But if we're going to see weakness, IWM would be a potential daily head and shoulders, where if we can't break the high and then we confirm the daily downtrend, that would be the first confirmed daily downtrend in IWM in months, if that were to happen. So again, burden on bears there, but just something I'm keeping an eye on. Healthcare, still holding on just fine. Bears tried to confirm a little daily downtrend on Friday, but bought the gap down open. So bulls trying to hold that base of support to keep this weekly consolidation very healthy. And it's a bit of a back test of previous resistance as support. But no red flags here in the healthcare sector. It's holding up pretty well. If we break 141.05, that will shift. All right, so major sectors, not major sectors, the volatile sectors, I've just been viewing, uranium, quantum, and rare earth as the volatile places to be for day trading or swing trading, but you know that on any given day, they're going to have significant volatility in both directions, which means significant opportunity. So last video, I talked about looking bearish in quantum because I was having fun doing so, and I had a bit of a profit cushion in a short, and I did stop out of that. This was an IONQ 4-hour rising wedge that did confirm. So weekly consolidation is underway there. And again, I exited my IONQ longs. The last third, I sold 80. The other thirds, I sold a little bit in the low 50s, a little bit in the low 60s. So in the end, we're roughly back to probably pretty close to my average sell right now. But I'm not interested in reloading long. There'll be a daily bounce along the way and then a daily lower high. Sooner rather than later, I'll be watching to see if that's a head and shoulders type of pattern. But things are just too extended here for me to be looking long for anything more than, maybe a one-day trade or something like that. The 3-month time frame, considering we've gone straight up, 6 to 80,200 whatever percent. We need 3-month consolidation, and then we can scout a 3-month higher low at some point, but that's going to take a long time to play out. So anyways, I stopped out. I was shorting QBTS, and I had some profit cushion, but I did stop out on Monday. And I was attempting for a bigger win. And so by stopping out and giving back my profit cushion, that for me was my signal to stop trying for the big win. And I did make some, bearish these names to end this past week, but much smaller size, getting a day maker or two instead of going for a week maker or two, things like that. So bulls won that round. We've got daily EMA 12 as a guide on QBTS, trying to hold it on Friday. And the big signal for me that told me I was wrong, looking bearish, or early, I should say, was the hold right here. So you had the low of the day, or the low of the pullback was 32.51. And then on Friday, we got to 32.49. So that's a double bottom at the moment. And so I head into Monday saying, all right, we got to break that level if we're going to keep consolidating. And if my swing short is going to keep working. We had relative weakness in QBTS Monday morning. We dropped down. It was the weakest quantum name, but look what we held. We held support by pennies, 11 cents. And as soon as you hold that low as a lead bear in the sector and then hit a new high of the day, that's when I knew I'm in trouble because the bulls are fine. You hold support, you break resistance, and then it was nothing but up from there, back to all-time highs. So at this point, again, I'm just very actively trading these names in both directions. I bought RGTI on the gap down open Friday for a nice little win for that hourly bounce. We are scouting a daily higher low. This was a daily stair step for weeks. Now we're pulling back, and anything over that's a daily higher low. So what I'm looking for into the start of this week is a daily higher low in quantum names, and then a bounce to a daily lower high. We'll measure the retracement size to determine most likely scenario. But the big question is, can the bears confirm the daily downtrend for convincing weekly consolidation to be underway? And then eventually we'll scout a weekly higher low, and we'll look for the same thing. Weekly higher low, then a weekly lower high, yada, yada. So I would say at this point in time, you're determining, do I want to be a short-term aggressive bull looking for a daily bounce or a patient bear waiting for a daily lower high? And there's going to be a lot of bears waiting for those daily lower highs because we essentially got the signal. Top is in for now with the size of this pullback and space to work with for those lower highs. All right, quantum. Uranium, I've also been short in OKLO a little bit. Same deal. I got stopped out right near the high, but did trade it bearish on Thursday. Had some nice follow through there. It's still just fine on the daily chart. We're looking for weekly consolidation. Again, we've gone up 200% since last weekly consolidation. So we know it's coming sooner or later, but this daily chart is still fine at this point. There are no red flags. If we see another little bit of downside, then we've got space to assume a daily lower high is most likely next bounce. And a lot depends on, of course, the broader market. You know, if we break sucker punch lows, these names are going to follow through in a weekly consolidation. If we break all-time highs, it's possible consolidation is fairly limited. So that's obviously a factor as well. Aside from OKLO, we got CCJ. Again, it's topped out from all-time highs, enough to scout a daily lower high as the result of the next bounce. SMR was a laggard bull. Big blow-off top kind of action there. Bull break, no follow-through on the weekly to all-time highs. So just looking like things need to cool off in these sectors that have been high flyers for quite some time. Metals. So I'm watching these metals for daily higher lows as well. MP is one of them that is now back testing previous resistant zone, trying to hold as support. You can see we topped out here multiple times. Now we're back testing again. Same thing. We're scouting a daily higher low in the rare earth names. Then we're scouting a lower high because of how much we have pulled back. I traded CRML on Friday. Again, just great volatility. Definitely a little thinly traded. You got to get used to the lack of liquidity, but played this bounce, sold into that move just because we went straight up 20 whatever percent in an hourly downtrend. You know, I shorted this name at 22 and then covered it at 2-minute EMA 12 and then longed it again for a flip. I was in the zone Friday morning day trading, and you know, someone was asking me, why are you short? Why did you pick there to short? And I shorted at 22. And my answer was, we just went straight up 22% in 10 minutes in an hourly downtrend. So I'm looking for at least 2-minute consolidation to make the trade. And then we pull back a little bit. I sell partial. I stick my stop over the high. And then I'm in full control of the trade. But just great volatility in both directions. You know, just 2-minute stair steps straight up. Pull back to EMA 12. There's your bounce. Little tightening range. Double top at the high of the day. And then pull back. So again, for these names to set daily higher lows, we've got to confirm hourly uptrends. And then from there, we look for daily lower highs and a loss of the hourly uptrends to indicate the daily lower high is being set. So that's my mindset on all these names in the next week. Short term, next day or two, scouting a daily bounce. Then we scout the lower highs. Can the bears confirm the daily downtrend to follow through with weekly consolidation? All right, metals. So metals is what I did right. Quantum wrong a bit early, shorting. One thing I'm looking for is potential rotation from metals to crypto. Crypto has been underperforming recently. Had a big blow up on that Friday last a week. But many times in the last couple of years, it has been clear trade-offs where gold consolidates, Bitcoin goes straight up on the monthly for a few months, Bitcoin consolidates, gold goes straight up on the monthly. And so if this is a blow-off top in metals or temporary top in metals, I'm going to be watching for the potential rotation into crypto. That's my thesis. I'm not buying crypto right now and assuming that this is going to happen. I lay out my thesis, and now over the next few days, next couple weeks, I zone in and focus, is my thesis being confirmed or denied? And so I'm going to be watching Ethereum for a daily higher low and an equilibrium. Big pullback, big bounce, scouting the higher low. Then we'll scout a lower high to tighten up a bit. So that's where my interest is because it's a potential monthly bull flag. And so I'm watching ETHA, I'm watching BMNR. BMNR is still within its equilibrium key support test. Got to hold that if we're going to keep tightening up. So again, it's just what I'm watching for. CLSK, we're going to look for a weekly higher low. These miners have been running. IREN has been off the chain running. These are some of the crypto miners also benefiting from AI stuff. But anyways, that's my thesis. We'll see. First, we need more confirmation that the metals top is in. So dollar, weekly time frame, bounce underway. We will have to confirm a weekly uptrend for some follow through. Most important resistance for me from here is 126 cents. So roughly sideways. We haven't done a ton in the dollar the last few months, but we put in a bottom for now. And so as we know, the metals have been going insane. And I've been charting the futures charts just because there's been some disconnect with these XAU USD and GC a little bit. Daily chart, volumes through the roof for a potential volume climax, but there's still a ton of proving to be done, right? It's just one red day. Still a daily uptrend. We're not even close to daily EMA 12, and it's been a daily EMA 12 rider for a couple of months. By the way, I'm going to do a EMA 12 rider webinar on Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. So check that out. I love this signal. I love this as a confluence for trades, for letting positions ride, for looking for reversals. We're going to be going over all that. But, all right, so what I did well in the metals is, first off, I was proud about a mental shift that I did. And the mental shift that I did, so, okay, I've been in a silver long position for a year and a half plus, and I know that we're going to pull back just because we're going straight up. And I know silver is volatile, so when silver pulls back, we can pull back 20% very easily. And so my mindset was, all right, I'm holding silver long term, but I don't want to have this position draw back 20%. So I'm going to look to hedge. And so I was looking for a bearish miners position for a hedge. If I can be in a bear miner position and long silver, and silver drops hard and the bear miners go up, it offsets it a bit. And so I was watching this wall of resistance to potentially play off of. This is GDX, and GDXJ was doing roughly the same thing. And so I was just nibbling, grabbing some small little starter positions. And then I recognized, and I posted this on Twitter a minute after I went long miners, I recognized this is a cup and handle. We have a resistance level. We double topped. And as soon as I saw this bull flag starting to shape up, I headed into Tuesday saying, if bulls control the morning, we got to be watching for a 4-hour cup and handle. We're in breakout mode. Again, I love this pattern for a continuation pattern. So many times people are looking for it at reversals or in the middle of a range. It's a breakout continuation pattern. And so I exited all my short miners and I longed miners. And as I longed miners, I was a bit shocked at myself because I would, you show me this chart, and you say, are you going long up here? I would say never. I would never go long up there. And I did just because of conviction in that pattern. And I like the risk reward. And my mindset was, on that day, Tuesday, grabbed NUGT for the 4-hour cup and handle play. Stop if the low breaks, target is 84 plus. And we ended up hitting 85. But my mindset was, that's fine risk reward. And I wasn't even zoomed in on the shorter term timeframes. I just bought at some point here. I said, if that low breaks, I'm out. That's fine. At that point in time, let's say I'm in at 79 and, I'm risking $1.50 and my reward is $4 plus. All right, that's fine. Let's do it. And so I did scale out a little bit early just because, all right, we're real extended. I'm going to be a little cautious, exit a third. And then I exited all of that position into strength on Thursday. So why did I exit that into strength? I exited a third, as I mentioned, on Wednesday, and then a third Friday morning or Thursday morning, a third Thursday afternoon. The reason I did that is I'm sitting there thinking to myself, would I rather leave money on the table, leave 5% on the table, or get back 5% of this trade? Leave 5% on the table. I don't care if it keeps running, I'm going to sell into strength. If the metals are going to see a blow off top, it can happen in extended hours when I can't act. And that's what happened. It's so easy for our minds as traders. I was all out the miners, and look we closed strong, and look at after hours. And so I'm sitting there watching after hours and saying, should I have kept a third? You're always, should I have done something different? Again, and then I have to remind myself, you're not going to nail the top. It's okay if it keeps going. You made your trade. It hit your target. And then I wake up and it's down massively. And so that's just a reminder to myself, selling into strength is fine. And then we get this huge drop. And I actually also sold some silver. And again, this is the first time I've sold this in over a year and a half. Why did I sell silver on Thursday? Same mindset. I just asked myself this question. Would I rather wake up tomorrow and silver be down 15% and I didn't sell anything, or up 15% and I sold something? And number 2 is that answer every time. And so I said, all right, we're getting climaxy. I'm exiting half of my silver long-term position. I'm going to reload it on a weekly higher low, maybe weekly EMA 12. I'll be very patient. And again, psychologically, if we keep going up, I still got half a position. I've still got physical position. Okay, that's fine. I'll still be increasing my net worth. If we keep pulling back, great. I sold half of my position. I've got cash to reload. I'm not seeing as significant a drawdown as I would have if I didn't sell. So that's been my mindset. And the bears have a ton of proving to do in these miners, starting with confirming a 4-hour downtrend. We haven't even done that yet. So if we start next week with a confirmed 4-hour downtrend in silver and gold, the probabilities that a temporary top is in for weekly consolidation will increase a good bit. But we need that check mark. Right now, bears have only had check marks on the hourly. Speaking of which, I then longed. I thought I was done Friday midday, back burner. Gold ticked the back burner almost to the dollar. And, at that point in time, the miners have been hourly oversold for a while, not bouncing. Silver's been hourly oversold for a while and not bouncing. You can see silver hit hourly oversold at 9 a.m. And then from that point forward, we dropped down to 2.8% more, which is decent. This is an important concept for back burners. You got Big Daddy who's driving a sector. In crypto, it's Bitcoin. In metals, it's gold. You can often see an altcoin everything's dropping. Bitcoin's looking for an hourly back burner, but Bitcoin's hourly RSI is 34. Altcoin is dropping harder. Its hourly RSI is getting oversold. I'm not going to play this back burner. I'm going to wait for Big Daddy, who's controlling the market, to hit its back burner, and I can long the altcoin on that signal. And then if Bitcoin's hourly back burner gets going, that's when the altcoin's going to bounce. But in the meantime, that RSI is going to drop to 30, 28, 27, 26 until Bitcoin gets there. And so it was the same mindset with silver and gold where, I wasn't considering playing that bounce. My mindset was, top's in for now. I don't want to be looking long. We've been extreme on the way up. We can get extreme on the way down. But I took a shot just because it was a good day at that point. I'll risk a small amount. And you can see how quick I'm selling partial. So gold hourly futures hit oversold. I'm long silver on it hitting. Same mindset. Silver's been hourly oversold for a while. Gold's going to dictate when the bounce gets going. And so you can see how quickly I sold half. I was in SLV. I nailed the bottom. 45.88 is that bottom. And I'm in at 45.94. And because again, it was literally right when gold just ticked it. Like, all right, let's make a shot. Why did I do that? Because look at the 5 minute. At that point in time, look how crushed we are. So my mindset, this is why I love when I'm playing an hourly back burner. I love if the shorter term time frames are extreme, because I then have confidence. At the least, I can look for a 5 minute bounce to position. And, you know, even if it's not the hourly bounce, then I stop out and whatever. That's fine. But I love when the shorter terms are extreme to give me the confidence that I can at least get a short-term bounce to position. And so the 15-minute RSI was oversold. The 5-minute RSI was down in the teens at that point. Yeah, 15-minute was down almost in the teens. We got right around the teens. So just crushed. And okay, I got my gold signal, and so I'm in. And you can see I sold partial. I sold half very quickly. 18. So that's like what, 0.4%. I'm selling half. Is that worth it? No, but that's not the trade. That's to position for the trade. So now my break even, so out half, break even, stop under the low of the day. So if I just made 18 cents on half a position, my entry minus 18 cents is 45.76 stop. I don't lose anything. If we bounce into the afternoon, I make more money. If we don't, I don't lose anything. And so that's why I sell partial real quick. And then I ended up selling the rest. You know, I trim a little bit here, I trim a little bit at the end of the day, and then it ends up being a more worthwhile trade. So, you know, I only make 0.4% on half the position, but on the second half of the position, I probably made, 2%. So then you average that out, I made 1 point whatever percent on the trade. Again, not a home run, just a nice little icing on the cake for the day, but it then is a worthwhile trade because of the second half. So we'll see if the bears can confirm a 4-hour downtrend in futures on the metals to increase the probabilities of weekly consolidation. Oil, still bear. Gonna look for a daily bounce as a result of a daily lower high as a result of the next bounce. We got space for a weekly lower high. So bears are still in control of oil. Natural gas, gave it back. We're back to the lows. Again, I don't have any interest in natural gas. Get over weekly EMA 12 and maybe things will shift. But for now, it's just battling at support and weak. And that's it. So quick recap. Metals, can they confirm the 4-hour downtrend? Volatile names, can we set daily higher lows within the first couple of days this week? If so, we then look for daily lower highs to be the result of that bounce a couple days later. And, of course, the indices, Captain Bull, semis, Captain Bear, financial. How do we break this tightening range on futures? Thanks for watching. Do good things. See you soon.
Just seeing that light go off for these young players, something that he has relished as a coach. 7.5 to play as they play now in the plus center field from the Saints 42.